Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stoughton School Committee meeting of November 22nd, 2022. This is being recorded on SMAC for future viewing. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so we don't have anyone signed up for public comment. That's the first item on the agenda. I'm going to move to the second item, which the Student Advisory Committee representative. Did we hear anything?
No, we don't have anybody tonight.
Did they decline, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
They probably have a lot of prep work to do for tomorrow.
Yeah, we did invite them though, right?
I'd have to check with
No,
Kathy.
okay,
I'm assuming
no.
she did.
I don't know. I didn't see, I know she one time had sent an email that she couldn't make it, but I didn't get one. I just don't know if we invited her or not.
Right.
I think Kathy had been inviting her, I'm not sure.
I'll check with her and make sure it's a standing thing that she does.
It's every meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can share the dates, the link with the dates. That
Mm-hmm.
might help her plan. I don't know.
No, I'll take
Might
care of
help,
it.
I don't know. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent update. Would you like to go, Dr. Ab?
Sure. Thank you, Mrs. Gropey, members of the committee. The first update I'd like to give is an update on the Safe Routes to School project at the Wilkins. So over the summertime, we had talked about the fact that we were putting a new transformer in. That was installed on September 24th, and the new meter for it on October 1st. So that has been working. As they were grading the part of the driveway where the road hits the driveway, they hit two obstacles over the last couple of months. One was an old electrical vault that was buried that needed to be removed, and a communications manhole. Those have since been removed, and Verizon was on site today doing the last transfer of wires from old poles to new poles. So what that does now is it sets the pace for a single course of sidewalk pavement going in over the next week, so that the sidewalks can be open to the public and plowed during the winter. So in the next week, all the sidewalks will be opened with the first course of pavement. The final course would go on at the end of the project. Basically, the speed of the project at this point is determined by the weather. The contractor plans to work on the site in front to install the footings for the wall. There's a retaining wall in front of the school as part of the plans, as long as the weather allows. And then work on the project would resume in late March or early April to complete the road walk and crosswalks and the final pavement on the school site, construct the wall and the ramp, and complete the driveway. But they've removed all the obstacles, and next week, or by the end of next week, they'll have the sidewalk open so that people can use the sidewalk. It'll be safe, and they can plow the sidewalk in the winter. And then unfortunately, because it's mostly cement and pavement, that stops for the winter and then resumes once the spring hits.
I thought it was going to be done, when we had talked at the beginning of the school year, you had stated that it was going to be done by, like, winter break, they would put the transformer in and all that stuff, and then all the work in the front would be done?
What got delayed it was the obstacles, the electrical vault and the communications manhole. The electrical vault was buried underground, and it required some asbestos remediation in order to pull that out. So that delayed the project to get that done, because they couldn't do any of the paving until all of that was removed. And then they also just finished moving the wires from the new poles to the old. So that was an update today that I received. Unfortunately, the project's been delayed because of those things. But I was happy to hear that at least the sidewalk's getting open for walking and plowing, and people will be able to use it, because right now it's closed. So I don't have anything else on the Safe to Schools update. In terms of the South School project, Mrs. Gropey, our chair, Mark Tinsdale, our interim town manager, and I met with the MSBA on November 1st to select our designer. And so we've tentatively agreed that DRA, the same designer that did the high school, would be working with us on the South School. Right now, our OPM is in negotiations with them. And once all of that is complete, we have our designer meeting with the MSBA on December 12th. And so that'll be the next phase of the project. After that, we'll be able to announce community forums and start really kicking into high gear with community forums and getting the whole community involved in the project.
So they go into negotiations with DRA, that's how it goes?
Exactly. So right now, they're in negotiations with DRA. They're trading with our OPM, making sure they meet the project budget that we had established. And then the school building committee also needs to meet before the 12th to approve that, and then we can meet with the MSBA on the 12th. That's the next steps in the project right now. And I know the chair is trying to set up the next meeting of the SBC. I haven't heard of a date yet.
Which chair?
TJ Recupero.
Oh, building committee chair.
Building committee chair, I apologize.
Like-
Building committee,
Like,
I
I didn't do
apologize. No, you're
anything.
not doing it.
I was like, oh, no, I haven't done anything.
So he's trying to set up a date, but we don't have a date yet, but it has to be sometime before the MSBA meeting on the 12th. And he's been working with the committee to establish a date.
What
on
happens
that.
on the 12th? What would it be?
It's called a designer kickoff, and so the MSBA basically lets us know what the next parts of the project are, and will help us kind of figure out the community forums, figure out what they feel a designer should do. It's just basically the MSBA giving us their opinion on kind of what a designer does. Where Stoughton's been through this already with the high school, I think it's really, with all due respect to them, it's a pro forma meeting for us, but it's one of the check boxes that we have to do before we can go forward with the community forums and really kick into high gear with the new designer.
Okay, thank you.
I spoke to our new, not new, but she's been on the job now since July, residency coordinator, and she let me know that we've done 32 investigations since the beginning of the school year, which has resulted in 11 students withdrawn as a result of lack of residency here in Stoughton. So I was pleased to hear that. She's been working hard, making sure those investigations are done. What she didn't say is because we have a consistent central registration office, I know that there are plenty of people that come by and cannot establish residency based on our policy, and so therefore they're not residents. And so she's catching a lot of those right at the door. And I think that's one of the things that I've really appreciated seeing her, is they're not even getting through because they can't establish residency because they're not residents. And that consistency is important. We sent out 168 residency audit letters today that were updated to conform to the current policy, and those are all due back by December 23rd. So we're giving families a month to get the paperwork in order, and so those audits went out today, and she'll be working on those as she gets those back, making sure that all 168 families still live in Stoughton, or if they don't, then they'll be.
And we can just share with folks that are watching, and then the new folks on the committee, what audit letters mean, so people understand what we sent out.
Of course. So school committee policy allows us to randomly select so many families every year and audit their residency. In other words, they have to reprove that they're residents of Stoughton. And so we put that list together, and we send out those letters to families, and they have to go through the same residency as if they were moving in brand new to Stoughton. And it's not personal, it's a random list, we put it out there to people, but it allows us to have an annual check and make sure that, some people establish residency for a long time, and we don't have a way to check every 5 years, 10 years. So this allows an audit on a regular basis of a random number of people. And we did it last year, and we're doing it again this year. This time of year, we typically do it. My last two updates are relatively simple. Last night, I attended the bilingual parent-teacher night. We had over 90 parents K-12 with translators and the entire faculty of our ESL program. I was thrilled. They had 3 different rooms, one for elementary, middle, and high school, and they were able to go all over rules and regulations, over how to use the family portal, really introduce these families to engage in Stoughton and make sure that they're using all the resources available. And our own staff ran it, and I thought it went very, very, very well. I sat in through most of the elementary presentation and then went by the other 2, and just impressive what was done. And I think a lot of the families came back with a better understanding of what they can do. And then just today, we received notice from the New England Association of Schools and Colleges that the high school's accreditation has been continued. So they've been in the process of the decennial review, but part of that process was a visit back in May, and we just got the results of that, and as a result, they voted to award the school continued accreditation in the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, and they mentioned in their letter that we were commended for the state-of-the-art facility that's well-maintained, clean, and supports the delivery of high-quality instruction, student learning, and co-curricular activities, and the robust and expansive selection of core and elective courses to enrich student learning. Mrs. Miller, the principal of the high school, anticipated these findings, and she knows that she has to work on the vision of the graduate, which she's working on this year, and she knows that she has to work on a written curriculum in the same format for all courses, and that's part of her school improvement plan that we approved back in May. So she knew that this was coming. And It's all getting ready for the decennial visit, which will be on May 12th to 15th of 2024. So we have another year and a half before the visit happens, but this is a next step in that process. And it was just nice to get the letter saying that everything's continued and she's on track for what she needs to do. So that's all I have for superintendent update right now.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right, moving on to new business. We have the Wilkins Elementary School MCAS results. I'm going to ask Ms. Monahan to please come up to the table. Welcome. Thank you for coming to our meeting. We're excited to have you here. Dr. Ab, do you want to introduce?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Just by brief introduction, to have Mrs. Monahan here, we're very excited. And while all of our schools did better on MCAS this year, the Wilkins overall state performance ranking increased from the 45th to the 68th percentile over 2 years. It's an extraordinary increase in 1 year. And to add a little bit of perspective to that, in 2018, the school ranked in the 24th percentile, and now it's up to 68. This achievement occurred despite the fact that since 2018, the number of economically disadvantaged students increased from 47% to 74%, and the number of English language learners has doubled. And so I was talking to Mrs. Monahan earlier about some of the strategies and techniques that she put in place to allow the school to have such wonderful gains, and I wanted her to take some time and explain those to the committee.
Thank you. This is very humbling, I have to admit. It's not easy to take praise, and I thank you all for having me here. I'm here on behalf of, obviously, the whole school, because it's the teachers and their utmost dedication and the students and the students' willingness to rise to our expectations that helped get us to where we got last spring. So shout out to all of them. There are many things that I think we do at the Wilkins. I know that when I became principal 4 years ago, the first staff meeting we had, I laid out my vision for the school. And I think the first part of that vision was talking about the negative perception of the school in general and how we were going to change that together. And I told them at that meeting if they trusted me, I would help guide them to better performance and a higher achieving school. So a shout out to all of them for putting their faith and their trust in me and allowing me to do what I could to guide them. So I think that probably the biggest impact that we have is because of the amount of conversations we have about the students every day. We talk about the students and how they are doing all the time. And we actually analyze the data discreetly, and we pull all of that information apart so that we can put the best interventions in place for our students. We have, all of the schools have what we call a building-based support team, and that's a committee of teachers that meet, and if you have a student that you're concerned about, you bring them to that committee to talk about their progress and ways to help them improve. And I think we have an extremely effective BBST process. We have representation from all different parts of the school, and we brainstorm different interventions, and we implement them almost immediately. It's kind of like an all-hands-on-deck approach, and I think that's something that's very special, because it's hard when you have an EL teacher, a special ed teacher, and a classroom teacher to collaborate and figure out the best way to improve a student's performance and then take time out of their routines to make sure that that happens. And that's something that we put as a priority in the school. I think part of what we also do is we're very creative in our problem-solving approach. And I like to encourage out-of-the-box thinking. I try to do that as much as possible. I think you've heard about some of the different proposals I've had. But I think one of the things I think we're most proud of is that we've continued ability-based groupings in both math and reading for grades 3 through 5. And what that means is students are grouped based on how they're performing at any given time. And those groups change and they're fluid, and they are then able to be taught at their level. And that's extremely important because the students who are performing really well can be challenged, and the students who are struggling can have immediate interventions. And that happens every day, all day, for grades 3 through 5 in those two subject areas. And I think, too, one of the biggest reasons that we were so successful is we had really small class sizes. And that's a testament to all of you for fighting for that and allowing me to fight for that all the time, because I'm kind of relentless when it comes to advocating for the kids and the teachers. So thank you for that. I will fight for small class sizes forever because it really does work. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I'm very proud of how the school did.
Let's start with you, Lindsay. Do you have any?
Do you have any ideas for what you want to try next? Is it to like continue with everything that's working, obviously, but like, is there anything else that you're looking to try?
So I think one of the biggest things we're working on now is a plan for the February and the April camps. I'm talking to the extended day specialist, and we're kind of putting a plan together for how we can get the students best prepared for MCAS through a camp experience. And then obviously, stay tuned for what I have planned for the summer. I'm sure that we'll definitely have another program for our students who would benefit from more reading support. We've had tremendous success with that, as you know, the last 2 summers, and so I'm fairly confident that we will put a different program in place. The neat thing about the programs is they're not ever the same because we really do cater them to what the students need. But I think it's just constantly looking at what we're doing and readjusting our practice to make sure that the kids are getting what they need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fabulous at what you're doing. I thank you so much, and I will always be on your side for small class sizes because I've seen them creep up through the years, and I'd love them to get down so that, you know, those kids can kind of get that individual one-on-one with the teacher. But I appreciate all your hard work and out-of-the-box thinking. Obviously, it's working.
I just wondered what impact you thought it was the ESSER funds, the programs that were established through that, what those had on this as well.
So the students that participated in the programs right now, our oldest group is currently in 3rd grade. But I can tell you that what we're seeing right now in those 3rd grade students is they came into the 3rd grade already at or above grade level, and we're very closely monitoring their reading progress specifically because that's what they were in our programs for when they were exiting 1st grade, entering 2nd grade. And it's quite impressive that they are where they are now, given where they left 1st grade. So I'm not sure exactly how their scores will be yet, but so far on the other assessments we have in the district, we're very pleased.
During the pandemic, she fought very hard to have small classroom sizes. We remember that. And the ESSER funding came in towards the tail end of that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the ESSER funds are going towards smaller classroom sizes for all the elementary schools. So we're trying to kind of, push that through to all and wean out some of the ones that have grown and have higher enrollments.
Okay.
But we did with the ESSER funds, the summer program,
Right.
the after-school program, we funded those things. And so we have funded out of ESSER. I don't know, Mr. Ford, if you want to add to it.
So we could actually talk specifically about one aspect of ESSER, which was funding what we call acceleration academies. And they can be very targeted towards intervention, enrichment. You can target them towards an AP class, but there are about 12 kids. You build out a program, you can do them for, a week, for a month, whatever it might be. But Ms. Monahan was instrumental in actually targeting one for her school, and, for a couple of years now. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
For the program that we did over the summer?
Yeah.
So we saw a need in our students 2 years ago that were at the end of their 1st grade year. And at that time, they were still reading at the end of a middle kindergarten level, and they were being promoted to 2nd grade. So if knowing anything about the 2nd grade curriculum, that would have made it exceedingly difficult for those students to be able to access the curriculum reading at a middle of a kindergarten level. So we invited a very targeted group of students to join us for the 5 weeks over the summer at our school. And we had them rotate through 3 different sessions, very specifically designed to help promote their reading. And we had a tremendous amount of success with that program, where they were then able to go to 2nd grade. And they were not quite at grade level when they started, but they were very close. And then we followed them extremely closely last year, so that they're the group that I was talking about. So they're now in 3rd grade, and they're all on or above grade level right now. So that's fairly remarkable, given where they left 1st grade. This past summer, we did something very similarly, but instead of having one program, I proposed 2, one very similar to the one I described, and then another one that was more of an enrichment program for that group of students. So we invited them back for a 2nd year in a row, but instead of working on remedial skills, we put them in book clubs, and we helped to encourage more, advanced thinking and problem solving and discussion and all of that. So we took that group of kids that we were really working on in terms terms of remediation the year before, and we put them in a different position of kind of accelerating them in a different way last summer. So again, a lot of success with both of those programs. And again, that's a testament to the teachers I have. I mean, they're the ones doing the work. I'm just coming up with crazy ideas and asking who'll do them for me. So,
But if I can go back to Ms. Monahan, so we want to fund everything the principals bring forward, and you can ask for anything you want, but you have to be able to say what you're doing and why, and you have to be able to defend it and justify it. And the one thing about Ms. Monahan is when she comes and asks, I want to set up an acceleration academy, it's not just, I'd like to do this, it's let me show you the data, let me show you the kids it's going to impact, let me show you what we want to do, and the impact that we think it's going to have. And in the end, every time that you've come to us asking for anything, we've said yes, because obviously
We say yes.
you sell it, and you convince us it's the right thing to do, and every time it has been. But then you come back when you're done and say, look at the results of what we did. And that then allows us to model what's happening at the Wilkins in some of our other programs. And what you'll see now with the success Ms. Monahan and her school had with their acceleration academies, we now have them set up to run parallel to almost all of our programs, like our spring break, summer break programs, winter break. So these little snippets are now
awesome.
appearing that target specific instruction or enrichment, along with the larger programs that we offer in Mass.
Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Well, this is very impressive. I had two kids that went through the Wilkins when it was the West at the time, and obviously I know the teachers are phenomenal, and your vision has obviously, led them to something that I'm just really happy to see. So
you.
congratulations to you and your faculty and staff.
Thank you very
And
much.
to the kids. This is a extremely impressive thing to see.
it's nice to be sitting on this end of it.
Yes, well, I was going there when it was a different, yeah. So, I think that big congratulations to you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to come here.
Thanks for having me.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, yeah, thank you. I didn't know they were at 28% in 2018, ranked 28, wow.
I mean, the Wilkins has been a diamond in the rough forever.
Yeah.
And it's just been waiting for that spark
Yeah,
to bring the building forward, and it has it now, and it has huge momentum. And
crazy. Good for them, good for everybody in that building.
It's a fun place to be.
Yeah, good for them. All right, awesome. All right. So we have two things on the agenda next that are scholarship acceptances. The first one is the Stoughton High School Class of 1987 Scholarship Acceptance. We have letters that go along with them. So the first one, Dr. Rab, did you want to cover it? Is that
Sure,
okay?
absolutely.
Okay, sorry. Thank
No,
you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gropey. The first one from the Stoughton High School class of 87 is being endowed by Mr. David Lambert. He's an SHS graduate from the class of 87, and he'd like to fund the scholarship in memory of all of his classmates who have passed away. They have raised enough for at least one recipient for a $100 scholarship this year, but he's hoping that once the scholarship's established, that more money will be deposited, and then they'll be able to offer more in the future. The criteria is a graduate seeking a higher education who hasn't received another scholarship from Stoughton High School. So that's the first one that is requesting approval this evening.
I'll make a motion to accept the scholarship, the high school class of 87 scholarship.
Second.
Yes.
All in favor? I forget, when I second things, I forgot to ask you guys.
I was
So
just-
is there any further discussion on
I
it
was just
first?
gonna say, all in favor, I was
All in
gonna.
favor? I just looked at Lindsay and she just said yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, the second one, sorry, Dr. Rab.
Not at all. The second one is the James Jackman and Kevin Wilder Memorial Scholarship. This was created by Miss Beverly Jackson and Miss Cindy Wilder in memory of their husbands, Jimmy and Kevin. They've raised enough funds to endow three $1,000 scholarships for each of the next 6 years for our graduates. Their criteria are Stoughton High School graduates pursuing a degree in criminal justice or nursing.
I'll make a motion to accept the James Jackman Kevin Wilder Memorial Scholarship.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It was like a run-on sentence.
Yeah.
Let's hope in the minutes you put a period after the second. No. Let's see. The next item is the Gosnold Agreement Acceptance. And we had a revised copy Everyone got that? Okay. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, yeah, go, Liz.
So Gosnold is a program that provides counseling services to our students, K to 12. They started last year with ESSER funds, and they've continued this year. They've had trouble with staffing, and so this year they're only able to provide 8 days a week for us in all of the schools. But they do have a new director who just started, so we'll see if we have some improvement as a result of that. But they do provide assessments, interventions, and individual or group counseling for students with identified substance abuse or mental health concerns. And I would like the committee, if they could, to reestablish this for this year, keep it going. And then it's a year-to-year renewal, so we don't have to necessarily do it next year. We'll do it 1 year at a time. We didn't get the contract until now, simply because of a new director. And so we just got this contract now, even though they've been providing services since September.
So what did we have for assistance in the schools last year?
Last year, I believe it was a little bit more. It was 10 days a week and for $20,000. And this year, they could only find enough contractors to guarantee 8. So that's all that we put in the contract.
So did the high school and middle school have more help? Because when I looked at the table on here, I'm trying to find it.
It's on the back.
It's on the back.
Thank you. It's confusing. It's on front to back. It's only half a person. That is extremely concerning to me, especially at the middle and high school.
Understood. The high school and the middle school also have the Bright program, which helps some students at risk, not necessarily counseling, but does help students at risk and students who are coming out of hospitalizations. They also have larger counseling staff, but this was just where they could find providers who would be able to provide services at that level. It's definitely a concern, no question. But this is the best
You happen to know,
they could
Mr.
do.
Ford, I know that this came out of ESSER, right? And this was the Gosnold last year.
Actually, last year, we could only put in about half the staffing that we had initially
Oh, okay.
tried to put in place. We'd anticipated and requested about $40,000 worth of support coming out of the pandemic, and we were at around 20, which would have worked out to be about 10 hours per week.
Yeah.
What we did is we put in place another program, though, that has to do with our school counselors, where they stay and provide services through an extended school day model to try to get the counseling in place for kids that can't necessarily participate in this or are
So
looking
one
for
of the
something
things
else.
that was concerning is there were families that were having a very hard time with their children, especially in secondary, and were stating and bringing concerns to the school committee that they couldn't get in and they couldn't get anyone. And I didn't know that we weren't filling this or have the appropriate amount of people because we didn't get the contract the last time, which is disappointing. So is there a way that we can start looking now for them to either commit for next year, that they'll add more resources, because we did say 40,000, which would have been double the people, and that's what our district needs? Or we can start looking at another company, or whatever, I don't know what we call it, but another resource that will be able to help and provide more resources for the kids, because this .5, what does that mean? Is it a half a day? Is
Half a
it-
day.
It's a half a day for all the kids in the high school to give them that resource. That's like not enough. That's not fair. So we've had this, and this is going to the second year. I've been very passionate about this. I've talked about this at FinCom meetings. I've talked about this at, different town meeting reps, and why this was extremely important for us to have in the social emotional needs for kids. So is there a way that we can start looking now to secure for next year, get commitment, and then get a contract in the winter to actually get people to commit? And because if they can't produce that and this went down, right, then there's got to be other companies, and we're going to be 2 years in. We could have done this with another company last year to see, 2 years later, you could have more people if you engage. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, we can do both. I'll talk to the executive director if they'll commit to more staff next year. If not, we'll look at a different company.
We need something. I mean, our kids, we have to advocate for them. Like, I don't mean to be a jerk, but we need more.
Yeah,
And
it
that's what
makes
the
sense.
ESSER's for.
It's only 3 hours for the biggest schools, so they have the most kids. They have,
And I can
That's where the
certainly-
most
I
need
can
is.
certainly challenge them if they have more
That
staff.
worried me, that there was only half, somebody split between the two.
I know from talking to the new director, they would love to add more staff, they simply don't have them. But I can challenge her to keep working on that and represent Stoughton.
So what is the contractual term for this is,
This school year, from August 1st, 2022 to the end of the school year.
yes, I think it's kind of like with the bus contract. I mean, we should start trying to figure that out now for the next contract, negotiate, engage with another professional practice as well to see what they're able to provide. And this is a lot of time in advance to try to see if we can get commitment from different folks and be able to actually negotiate for a change,
Absolutely.
you know? And then what we can do is, we can look to have this back on the agenda and hopefully have some type of recommendation in maybe January on what really it'll look like in the future. And I mean, if we're paying them a lot of money, right, we want to service the kids, and we want to be able to service as many as we can. We don't want to put when you have a half a day, and it's one person, half a day, you can't give them a bunch of kit, that's not helping any of them, right?
No, it's
So-
not ideal. So we can absolutely look for something better.
All right, sorry, guys. This is one of those ones I've been very passionate about, getting help for kids, so I don't know if anybody else has anything they wanted to say.
No, we talked about it, we agree.
Anything? No? All right. Okay, so you're looking for us to make a motion to,
I'll make the motion to accept the Gosnold agreement acceptance.
for this school year. All right.
Exactly, just
for this school
2022,
year.
23 school year. That's it.
Second. You seconded that? Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Good. Okay. You need that one signed?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll do that after, I promise. I won't write on it. I put it in the farthest corner of my desk, so I wouldn't touch it. Okay, the next item is the substitute teacher rates. This is something we were going to revisit when we tried. Obviously, we've been having a very, very hard time with substitute nurses and teachers, and we talked about this previously at a meeting, and then we were to bring it back and do research throughout, so I'll give it to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So we made a very small increase in the springtime, trying to slowly increase and make our substitute teacher rates competitive. We've gotten a little bit more interest, but we certainly are having a very hard time filling the subs right now. And so the next level that would be budget-friendly and also make us commensurate with surrounding towns would be another very small incremental approach and make it $150 a day would be my recommendation. So this way, we can recruit more effective subs. For any number of reasons, teachers are out, and we want to have qualified subs in the classroom at all levels, and right now, that's been very, very difficult.
Okay.
And so this new rate, if we could make it even effective November 28th, that would be great when we get back, and allow us to be competitive and recruit subs.
I'll make a motion to advance the rate to 150 a day.
You're looking at me.
I'm trying to figure out, like, do I have to say the date, effective November 28th?
That would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Effective today, like,
You can make it effective
Yeah,
tomorrow, it's just a half day.
effective
so-
whenever you'd
as
like.
soon as we vote, it's
Yep.
effective.
That's fine, that works.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure, go ahead.
How long is a day? Is that 6 hours? Or,
It's the school day, 6 or 6.5 hours, depending what's elementary or high school, middle school.
thank you.
Will you second it now?
Did you? She's very bossy today. Sorry, Lindsay. Do you have any questions, any conversation before we move
The
forward?
current rate is
105.
105, okay.
Okay. How you doing? All in favor?
Yes.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gropey, members of the committee.
You're welcome, Dr. Rab. The substitute nurse rate, please.
Sure. Similarly, with our daily sub-nurses, we're falling behind surrounding towns. And to remain competitive, I'm recommending $175 a day for nurses, and that's a little bit more than the sub-teachers, because sub-nurses right now are very, very hard to find. And so I'm recommending $175 a day to allow us to recruit a group of daily sub-nurses.
Any questions?
What's the current rate?
100.
Okay.
And then I heard that we had to, we haven't been able to get them and to a point where when there were field trips.
That was a field trip
They couldn't
canceled.
bring the student because the nurses couldn't go and there was no one to fill in.
Yeah.
And in other towns, they're paying more than what we're looking to pay right now on this.
This is a median,
Yeah,
175.
this is
median.
like lower, yeah. So I just, every child should be able to, every student should be able to participate, you know, and that, wish I realized that or had heard about it sooner. Sad.
I'll make a motion to have the substitute nurse rate at $175 per day.
Second,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Coming from everywhere, yes. All right. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the October 11th public meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of October 11th, 2022.
Second.
Just bear with me. I just want to look at it. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Yes.
Nice. Aye. Okay, so Lindsay abstained. Okay, then we have old business to cover, which is just to talk about the budget and the articles that we'll be discussing. We'll have a public hearing in December. We'll vote to approve things then in December. I don't know if you had any question. I just actually saw,
I had put just the current articles the way they stand now. And I wanted, if you want to be update on the CPC meeting, or we can wait and do that at the next
it
meeting.
just said the letter said attached for your review and approval.
That was just so you
Just a
had
letter
text.
to you?
This
We
was
don't-
a letter to the committee from our school business manager, simply with the text of the two articles as they stand now. So the committee could take a look at those and make any changes as
Okay,
necessary.
it just says for our review and approval.
Yeah, it should be just
We
say
don't need base in
review.
here, yeah,
Probably a little more formal than it needs to be, so.
yeah. So we're not going to approve them?
No, no.
This is
No,
for
it's just
the next,
FYI.
we need time to look at them.
This is when we approve the
And talk
budget and
through.
everything.
Yeah.
It's part of December.
Is there, so with the budget, Jesus, I got sidetracked. Katie threw me off, I'm so sorry.
This blames me.
So you're distracting. So with the budget also, so we need to talk about, so obviously, we talked about ESSER, and we went to FinCom, and we had talked about shifting things over from ESSER. Some things are going to end when ESSER ends, and then some things will shift over. As an example, this Gosnell thing may end because we don't have, that's not something we can sustain in a budget to continuously do. But we can build on other programs, which brought a question for, I had requested that we look at the budget and that the superintendent look at the budget and we reassess it and look at how we're funding some sections within it, meaning guidance, and how can we look at that and how that's built, and provide, like, how do we, I don't like putting money towards something, just period. How is that, structured? The special ed department as well, where we tend to get emails and things of that nature regarding that, and how is that structured, and how do we fund that? And like the Gosnell thing as an example, how can we, as you mentioned, Mr. Ford, you say that, some of those guidance counselors would be assisting with this. Well, they're busy doing other day-to-day tasks and other things on top of that. So what happens is when we put more things on their plates, something else falls, because now they're picking up something else, and then they're not meeting with the students on a regular basis or able to. It's just, there's things that can't happen when, you know what I mean, we end programs and then we just say, okay, pick that up, and it's not something that you would naturally or originally do. So we had talked about, and Lindsay, you had asked a question about assistant superintendents and having more than one a while ago. And obviously, it's something that whenever someone comes forward with any question or anything, I bring it forward, right? So that came up in how do we fit that into the budget? So looking at a reorg and how does that going to play out? And we have our deputy superintendent here, but we're not going to have him forever. So how do you eventually get to an org structure that puts more of an emphasis on certain departments, and it's able to kind of give it that more care and more, of a defined role and responsibilities within those departments, and it gives more attention of a assistant superintendent for one area versus another. Right now, Mr. Ford is the man of 20 hats, right? And that's a lot. So this is a good opportunity because of the Chapter 70. Sorry, my back keeps going to you, and I'm looking at Lindsay because she had asked the question initially. With the Chapter 70 to, while we're moving that ESSER stuff over and those positions and all that work, is to reassess and then maybe shift what a position would be and then make assistant superintendent roles, similar to other districts our size where they have like 3. So obviously, Mr. Ford is one, but he would be a deputy until later, it's assistant spot. But we were talking about things like that. So I would welcome Dr. Abbey and Mr. Ford to both give some insight on that and to just talk about that a little more.
Sure.
What you think?
Sure. I'm excited to engage the process. I think any time that we can define roles and responsibilities so people know exactly what their jobs are, and this way they know what's expected of them. And I think sometimes in education, somebody has a job, they have a position, something new comes along, and we just add. And so their original job becomes watered down and they can't do it. So this is an opportunity to really have a reporting structure with an assistant superintendent that would allow us to compartmentalize into areas that other districts have, whether it's HR or operations or curriculum, and allow us to really take a look at the org structure of the central office and the administrative team and make it clear about whose roles and responsibilities and who's reporting to whom so that people can confidently do their job. That's one way that I think it'll be very, very helpful.
So interestingly, we've had these discussions in the past about our per-pupil expenditure. And if you looked at a typical per-pupil expenditure for administration, our district runs about 60% of what that is. So it just means there's a lot less people doing the same amount of work, which means everybody has more responsibilities, which sometimes gets in the way of actually focusing where you want to focus. The other thing that I think we can clean up is the fact that we have a lot of titles and positions that have never been clearly defined within the org structure. I mean, people know who they report to and they know what their responsibilities are, but we don't really have a tiered system where it's all lined up succinctly. And I think if we were looking at doing this, there's a lot of things we could spin out better organized and then layer the whole district so it makes a lot more sense to everyone. It's just a clear leadership structure.
Yeah. I think it too it's good for not only the students, but the faculty and staff that are within every building, because they need support too. And sometimes it's hard, watching if someone, a faculty member, wants to speak to someone, but they're so busy, or they, might have a thought, and they're so, there's just, it's good to have the specialized departments where if you had an assistant superintendent to curriculum and whatever, right? That's where that stands versus if you had human resources and whatever, right? Things like that. It's just it's a more streamlined approach, but also I think hopefully it takes some of the workload off of the principals where they might be picking up some things, and then even the leadership within the buildings, that they're able to support the staff in the buildings better with having less workload on them, and because we do want the teachers to feel supported too in this. So it's kind of like that effect of them being able to know that's the person, and I know that's going to go somewhere if I mention it or want to discuss it. It's an actual, and it's someone that they feel comfortable they can go to. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. But I don't know. Anybody has any comments?
No, I think it's going to be wonderful. I just brought it up a little bit, and it sounds like, just to know who you're supposed to go and report to and you can have ideas with, and
Yeah.
maybe like Ms. Monahan had mentioned, having those little groups and just talking about stuff, maybe that can happen more.
Right.
When you have like little groups like that. I just thought it would be great.
I think so.
I think it would be helpful for parents too to have clearer delineation, saying, my child's struggling in reading, who do I go to? Do I start with the teacher? Do I start reading specialist? Do I go to this person? I think it would be much more helpful for parents to know specifically who does what.
Yeah. And sometimes I think, I'm sure every district, that's the only one I've ever been in, lived in, but I'm sure every district has tape. This is, for me, where tape needs to be removed. So this is where you need to have defined areas of where these specialties are, and that it's not just all going to Mr. Ford when it all goes to somewhere, or it's all going to Dr. Abb, or it's all going to Katie Monahan. There is a clear delineation, and then there's like that support model for people. I just think it's makes sense. And I think that having assistant superintendents makes sense, because then it kind of has that structure where, you're there, Dr. Abb, this is obviously not a superintendent issue, but there, it needs to, sometimes these things need to be handled within the buildings. And, things, sometimes folks might feel more comfortable talking to people or bringing, certain things up, and may not feel comfortable going to, superintendent or even the one deputy. You know what I mean? It may be that we have these specialized areas where they know, I have an idea, and they know that it could go somewhere, I don't know. Maybe I'm delusional, but I think that it would be helpful if you guys could start to look at what that would look like in the budget. We're obviously staying where we are. We're not looking to increase anything, but to maybe take some things out that might be open, whatever you got to do to figure this out. And we can try to get this all kind of solidified so we can get this moving and in place for next year.
Sure.
I think that'd be great. And especially because we're in discussions with the STA as well, it'd be nice to inform them. It'd be nice to, let them know these thoughts and ideas, and, what we, would, hopes and dreams of what we'd like to do, and maybe that can, be in those discussions. But
Sure.
anyway. Yeah, so is that okay? So at the next meeting, we could kind of have an idea of what that would be?
Absolutely.
Or yeah? Cool. Thank you. You have anything else with the?
No, thank you. That's perfect.
Okay, under other matters, I have another matter. Ooh, I snorted. Oh, no. Oh, dear. Okay, so I was thinking of if someone wanted to be more engaged in the South School Building Committee from the school committee. Currently, I represent on that South School Building Committee, and I think it's a good thing for someone if they want to be on that, especially where it's going into December. And it's kind of getting into the public piece aspect of it, and they don't meet often right now, but they will at some point. But this is a good time to get involved with the design piece kind of happening in the negotiation. That's why I asked all the questions about the steps so they could hear. And I don't know if either of you have interest in being that representative of the school committee on it.
I mean, I have some because I have, my child's in I have children in elementary school right now, so certainly I know a number of South School families and would love to kind of,
Okay.
be some sort of, bridge. Lindsay, unless you really are
Yeah,
passionate
no,
about
that
it.
would be fine, I think.
Okay.
Happy
You
to.
probably have your hands full with the collaborative. Has that started yet?
Yes.
Okay. So if I may, I'd like to appoint you to the South School Building Committee.
Okay. My husband's going to kill me,
In
but.
my place, they don't meet, but can you manage that?
Absolutely.
Make your, I will remove myself as a representative, and Katie
Okay.
as well, remove
Okay.
ourselves. Generally, it's one school committee member that's on, so selfishly, I brought her with me. Figured if I was going to go through that. But, okay,
Perfect. I'll do the paperwork with the MSBA. Sure.
wonderful. Thank you very much. And it's a good opportunity, honestly, this is great. Like, the collaborative, Anita Hill did it for so long, and she loved it, like, once you really get into the swing and all that, she really loved going to that, and this will be a good experience, too, for you.
Well, I think I'm technically on the facilities committee, so.
Oh, did I put you on
Yeah,
that?
so.
Oopsies.
I feel like, since we're not doing anything, I feel like I should be on my own.
Oh, well, there you go, see, it went
Yes.
hand in hand.
Be an expert on that.
Jeez. Oopsies. Anyway, okay, great, thank you. Does anybody have any other matters? No? Okay. And that concludes our meeting for the evening. Thank you guys very much for all the information tonight. It was very, I'll sign that after. I didn't want to mess up the signature. So we're going to adjourn. Our next scheduled meeting will be on December 13th, 2022, and I believe that will be the public hearing as well, which has been posted already out.
I'll double check. That should
Okay.
have been, yeah. If
So
not,
that will be December 13th, 2022. And I believe that is it. So
Motion to adjourn.
thank you very much, Katie Peta
You're welcome.
Enochian. I will second that. And, what?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening.